Good evening, Citadel football fans, and welcome to another edition of the head coach Brent Thompson radio show. We are live tonight from Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley, one of 3 locations that have home team barbecues, and we are here on the verge of one of the biggest games that will be played in Johnson-Haygood Stadium. A battle of the unbeatens this weekend as the 5-0 Citadel Bulldogs take on the 6-0 Chattanooga Mocs, and the head coach of the Citadel Bulldogs is alongside Brent Thompson. 5-0 to start his college career, and for the next hour we're going to talk about Citadel football. And so we are doing so in front of the largest crowd that we have had all year, and we thank you very much for that. Give yourselves a round of applause. This is great. And so here we go. We're off and running, and after a strange week for not only the football team but for a lot of us in the Low Country, and so we'll start off talking about that here on the show. First of all, welcome to head coach Brent Thompson, and it's good to see your team's a 5-0 start on the year. And so the thing that I'm excited about the most is, now there is some week left to determine this, but as far as we know, you are going to play a home game this weekend. That's something you haven't had a lot this year.
No, it's been quite a stretch for us. I think 8 of our last 9 games have been on the road dating back to last year. We've handled it extremely well. I think we've won 7 of those games. So I think that the kids have handled it. They handled it perfectly last week. It wasn't an easy situation. It wasn't an easy situation for our players to get over. But once they did and they embraced it, I thought we never looked back from there. And it was probably the best thing in hindsight that we could have done given the circumstances last week.
Now, you and I have spoken on the radio since that game, but not necessarily in this setting. And so I kind of want to walk it back just a little bit to last week. And in a few minutes, we're going to talk specifically about how the North Greenville game went on Thursday night. But last week, we knew kind of early in the week that bad weather potentially was on its way to the Low Country. And on Tuesday afternoon, the governor mentioned that it would probably be a good idea if most people left the area. And so when everything kind of went down, obviously you guys were looking at it, you were talking about it. So just talk us through what last week was like, maybe starting on Tuesday, because you didn't get back from the previous game until, midnight on that Sunday morning. And then you're ready to come home and play a game, but then find out later you're going to be playing on the road. So what was last week like with all the unique challenges that you had to face with your team?
Well, going back to last Sunday and last Monday, we practiced on Sunday, so we were looking forward to it as a team, as a program, getting back home, getting back in front of our fans, and the players were extremely excited about that. So we knew that going into this week that it was going to be a little bit of challenging. We kept the eye on the weather report. We went through as a Sunday. We have Monday off, so we didn't have a whole lot of interaction. We were just kind of holding tight, seeing what things were. Tuesday was kind of the big day. We had to make a decision by Tuesday, and it was actually at about noon that I got a phone call from our athletic director talking about the possibilities. We had saw that Charleston Southern moved their game to Thursday at that point, and we were talking about moving our game to Thursday as a home game for us and trying to still get it in. And I was all for that idea as well. I wanted to play at home, and I wanted to get the game in. I wanted to get the game in for our players. We're having a nice season. They certainly deserved it. Our seniors, they certainly deserved it. And then, things started to churn a little bit, and, the evacuation process started to take place. So we knew that the Thursday possibility was going to be out. So on Wednesday, we kind of kicked around a few ideas of either canceling the game, which I was not, for, or moving the game to North Greenville or a neutral site. So we started to put the plans in place, and it was all really up to the athletic administration. In order to organize it, we had to be able to get accommodations, we had to get lodging, we had to get buses, which was a big thing, and then we had to ask North Greenville if it was okay for us to, take our game up there, which. They ended up being very, very gracious and gracious hosts to us. We were able to get buses to take us up there. We were able to get lodging. We were able to get food and all that. And a travel party put together, which is not easy to do. You're talking about a program that does it all, in the summertime. We plan everything about 3, 4, 5 months out. So when you have to plan something a day or two out, that can be very, very difficult and very challenging logistically. So I got to hand it to our athletic administration and Jeff Von Dolan and Jim Center and Rob Acunto and Derek Satterfield. They all came up with some great ideas, and we had some great plans put together and found our lodging and put together the North Greenville game in about a day's time. So it was awesome.
So you didn't have a whole lot of opportunities to do anything with this game. If you don't play it, you don't have anywhere to put it because you've already had your open date. So you're in a situation here where if you don't get that game in, you're going to play a 10-game schedule for the regular season, which I don't need to tell anyone has some ramifications, obviously, come playoff time. 10 games to be evaluated on is certainly not an ideal situation.
Not only that, Mike, is we would have gone, because we had a bye week before Western. We played the Western game, and then we would have had a week off. We would have gone almost 27 days without playing just one football game, which on either side of the ball is not going to be good for us. Timing-wise on offense, fits on defense, and none of that works out very well for us. So I thought that was the most important thing about playing that football game was keeping the timing, keeping the rhythm, keeping the momentum that we had, keeping our players together. If you didn't do that, it looks like we wouldn't have been able to practice until Sunday. So we would have gone 5 days without practicing, which can be very difficult for a football program. So I thought it was the best thing to do, and it turned out it was.
So you have to find a way to find accommodations for a little over 100 people, which is not an easy thing to do. Obviously, that's a lot of moving parts. When you have a circumstance where everyone is trying to find a hotel room to get away from this particular area of the country, it's certainly not easy to find a room, much less find a room for over 100 people.
Yeah, you're going up to Greenville. A lot of people are migrating that way. A lot of people are evacuating that way. They're all going up there, and we had to make some hotel arrangements, and we had some hotel arrangements, but we didn't have enough rooms. So we eventually found this place that not only could accommodate 100 players, but had the space to do some other things. We had some walkthrough space there. We had meals there. The meals were fabulous there. They did a great job. So you're not really just looking for a hotel. You're looking for a hotel that can accommodate and as well as feed. So that could be very difficult.
It was, in fact, the Bulldogs were able to find a place that wasn't necessarily all that far outside of the norm. I think most people who were told, for example, if you go to a place like Look Up Lodge, you got to bring your own pillows and you got to bring your own linens. Most people would say, well, I can't do that. Well, your guys can. I mean, that's not too far outside of the norm for these guys.
No. And I told him, I said, I didn't have any idea. I'd never been there. So when I told him, and I had different ideas of what church camp was, but it was certainly a lot more accommodating than I even imagined. But really, it wasn't that far off from barracks life anyway for our guys. So, and they really enjoyed the food as well, and they enjoyed kind of relaxing and being with one another. At the end of the day, I thought they really enjoyed it. They were a little bit of a struggle getting over the hump of, hey, we're going to church camp here, to the point where, we're going to be together. And the other thing I think they worried about the most, and I tried to use their mind as best I could. I said, look, man, I'm not trying to recreate fall camp here. All I really want to do is get you up there, get this game out of the way and kind of start looking forward to the Chattanooga game after that. And, I'm not going to take up all of your time. I'm not going to grind you. I'm not going to practice you twice a day. I want you guys to enjoy yourselves, hang out, bring your gaming systems, bring your videos. There's probably not going to be Wi-Fi, so bring some board games, bring some card games. And that's what they did. They really enjoy being with one another. And the not having Wi-Fi, they made the best of it. They had some ping pong games. I even got a little bit involved in ping pong. I got a little bit involved in the horse. Played a little bit of basketball there. I wouldn't allow any games to go on, but I certainly allowed a little bit of shooting around to go on. So we really made the best of that we possibly could of it.
Sometimes being unplugged can be a very relaxing thing, and so it sounds like that's the case there. And so glad things went well for you on the road. You got to win on the road, which we want to talk about in the next segment. Kind of want to walk our way through the North Greenville game, and it's ebbs and flows, if you will. But first, we want to take a quick break here to get the show underway. We've got a big weekend coming up at Johnson-Haygood Stadium. There are only 5 unbeaten teams left in the United States in FCS football. 2 of them will play each other at Johnson-Haygood Stadium on Saturday. It'll be the Citadel Bulldogs, who are 5-0. They are ranked number 9 in one poll and number 8 in another. And Chattanooga, which is ranked 5th in one poll and 3rd in the other one. And so there will not be 5 unbeaten teams after this weekend. And so a FCS Game of the Week candidate coming up this weekend. And we want to get to all of that when we come back in just a few moments from right now. This is the Head Coach Brent Thompson Radio Show on Sports Radio 1450.
Style. Selection. Service. Quality. Value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture Home Store.
We build our communities. We earn our success. We, as South Carolinians, work best together. Don't follow your bank into the impersonal world of mergers. Make a change. Visit South Atlantic Bank to talk with local bankers who care about the Low Country. Our local headquarters will be ready next year on Johnny Dodds Boulevard. Until then, stop by our current location. You'll find a community bank with a proven track record of financial success. South Atlantic Bank. People you know and
I
trust.
enlisted in the Army in 2005. I went to Iraq 3 times and Afghanistan once. She's the culprit that ripped our door off. 2,000-pound animal bumping into a steel door creates quite a bit of damage. I actually use the app, take pictures of it right there for USAA, and they take care of the rest. USAA is great about working with both active and separated military. I'm Josh Eilers, and I'm a USAA member for life.
Call USAA today to talk about your insurance.
Buying a home is a big financial decision, so you need a strong team working on your mortgage. That team is at South Atlantic Bank.
Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Low Country.
South Atlantic Bank offers competitive rates and terms on loans for home purchase or refinance. If you need a mortgage loan, you need the mortgage loan professionals at South Atlantic Bank.
South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home ownership.
Buying a home is a big financial decision, so you need a strong team working on your mortgage. That team is at South Atlantic Bank.
Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Low Country.
South Atlantic Bank
Welcome
offers
back to the West
competitive
Ashley
rates and
location of
terms
Fire
on
Rods
loans for
Home Team
home purchase
Barbecue.
or
Another edition of the
refinance.
Head Coach Brent Thompson Radio
If you
Show.
need a mortgage
We did not
loan,
have a
you need
show
the
last
mortgage loan
week because
professionals
the
at
Bulldogs
South
were
Atlantic
traveling
Bank.
with their
South Atlantic
adjusted
Bank Mortgage
schedule,
Group, providing the
going
keys to home
North
ownership.
Greenville to play the game instead of hosting North
Buying a
Greenville.
home
What
is a
would have been
big
two-game
financial
homestand
decision,
turned
so you
into
need a strong
one-game
team
homestand.
working
But
on your
more about
mortgage.
the game coming
That
up this
team is at
weekend,
South
coming
Atlantic
up
Bank.
shortly here
Decisions
on
are
the
made
show.
right here in our
First of all, though,
community
Coach, I
by
wanted to
mortgage
recap the
professionals
North
who really know the
Greenville
Low
game just a
Country.
little bit here,
South Atlantic Bank offers
because,
competitive rates
you
and
had a
terms
lot of
on loans for
reasons
home
going into that
purchase
ball
or
game where
refinance.
distractions
If
could
you
have
need a
gotten
mortgage
the better
loan, you
of
need the
you.
mortgage
It's a
loan
game that you
professionals
are
at South
expected
Atlantic
to
Bank.
win, and expectations
South Atlantic Bank Mortgage
sometimes can
Group,
jump to
providing the
forefront
keys
there.
to
So
home
let's get
ownership.
started on talking about the North Greenville ball game.
Buying a home is a big
And,
financial
the
decision,
way it
so you
turned
need
out,
a
you
strong
found yourself in a
team
little bit
working
of a
on your
hole early in
mortgage.
that ball
That
game.
team
A
is at
long
South Atlantic
touchdown
Bank.
pass on their second
Decisions
play
are
from
made right
scrimmage,
here in our
ends
community
up putting
by
North
mortgage
Greenville in
professionals
front.
who really know the Low
Sometimes
Country.
you need a little
South
bit of a
Atlantic
wake-up
Bank offers
call,
competitive
and, they
rates
tried to
and
deliver
terms
one
on loans
with
for
a
home
shot to the
purchase
mouth
or
a little early in that
refinance.
ball game.
If you need a mortgage loan, you need the mortgage loan professionals at South Atlantic Bank.
Which is very uncomfortable.
South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home ownership.
We've got about a 45-minute hour.
Buying a
practicing on
home is a
Sunday. We've
big
got about an
financial
hour practicing
decision,
on,
so you need a
Tuesday.
strong
And then we
team
left
working on your
Wednesday. We didn't do
mortgage.
anything on Wednesday. We
That
walked
team
through
is at South
Thursday
Atlantic
morning.
Bank.
So here we
Decisions
are,
are made right here in our
less than
community by
60 or
mortgage
70
professionals
plays
who really
in,
know the Low
of practice,
Country.
and we're relying
South
on a lot
Atlantic
of
Bank
things, a lot of
offers
technique,
competitive rates
a lot
and
of schemes that
terms
we'd
on
probably
loans for
used
home purchase
throughout the
or
year, a lot of schemes that
refinance.
we'd learned, a lot of schemes that we'd repped
If
during
you need
camp.
a mortgage
So
loan, you need the mortgage
we had
loan
to really
professionals at
dive
South Atlantic
deep into
Bank.
really our skill set,
South
make sure
Atlantic
that
Bank
we
Mortgage
could,
Group, providing the
pull
keys
this
to
win
home
out still.
ownership.
So I was happy with the way that the
Buying
game
a
started
home
off.
is a
Of course,
big
we dropped the
financial
ball all the way down. We
decision,
get down to
so
the
you
1
need
yard
a
line.
strong team
And,
working on your
Dom's
mortgage.
helmet comes
That
off.
team is at South
And,
Atlantic
in
Bank.
hindsight,
Decisions
the
are
first
made
half
right here in
there, I
our
probably should have
community
just
by mortgage
taken a
professionals who
timeout,
really
put him
know
back
the
in
Low
game there,
Country.
but,
South
I've got a
Atlantic Bank
certain,
offers competitive rates and
great
terms
quality
on
backup
loans for
quarterback. I
home
didn't think
purchase
anything
or
of it, put him in there.
refinance.
And we didn't get the.
If you need a mortgage loan, you need the mortgage loan
we just,
professionals
kinda
at South
handed the ball
Atlantic
off there and
Bank.
probably would have done something
South
differently
Atlantic Bank
otherwise.
Mortgage Group, providing the
So we
keys
turned the
to
ball
home
over on downs,
ownership.
and then we get them
Buying
deep,
a home is a
we hold
big
them up.
financial
I think it's the first
decision,
down and
so
then
you
second
need
down,
a
they
strong
popped a big
team
one
working
from
on your
99
mortgage.
us.
That
hit us on
team
a
is
little
at
bit of a
South
double
Atlantic
move. We got a little
Bank.
bit of pressure on the
Decisions
quarterback.
are
He
made
makes a
right
great
here in our
play.
community
It's a
by
great wide
mortgage
receiver,
professionals who
and,
really know the
he
Low
splits
Country.
us and takes it to the
South
house on
Atlantic
us, so we're
Bank
down
offers
7-0.
competitive rates and terms on loans for home purchase
I
or
can't get mad.
refinance.
There's not a whole lot to be mad about. We
If
moved
you
the
need a
football down
mortgage
there. Yeah, we
loan,
gave
you
up
need
a
the
big
mortgage
play.
loan
He hit us on a
professionals
double
at South
move, but
Atlantic
really,
Bank.
we should get 7 points
South
out of that.
Atlantic Bank
That's a red
Mortgage
zone
Group,
touchdown taken
providing
off
the
board
keys
for us.
to home ownership.
We can't have that happen, and no matter whether we
Buying a
practiced,
home is a big financial
0 days,
decision,
1 day,
so you
or a
need a
full week, it
strong
doesn't really
team
matter. We
working
need to
on
put
your
that ball in the end
mortgage.
zone right there.
That team is at South Atlantic Bank.
That's a little bit
Decisions are
discouraging on
made
that
right
end.
here in our
We needed a
community
little bit of that
by
wake up,
mortgage
and a lot of those
professionals
things
who
went
really
on
know
through
the
the
Low
first half.
Country.
That whole
Atlantic
game
Bank.
is, and you can't get mad at that kind of stuff because really what you got to do is you got to keep them excited, keep them elevated right there, and make sure that we just take care of the mistakes that we made and come out in the second half ready to go.
One of the things that you have had issues with that you have been dissatisfied about at different times in the season, penalties. You had a game where you had 13 of those. This time you scaled it way back, and you only had 3 in this particular ball game. So you were able to get that issue addressed and dramatically cut those.
Unfortunately, we had the one penalty that took back Delaney's touchdown, and he's been robbed of 2 interceptions because of penalties. And it's a complete judgment call on the one right there. Is we had blocked the guy behind the play. He said it was unnecessary to block the guy behind the play right there, Miles Pierce. But it's hard for us to tell them. We tell those guys that, hey, you need to block that wide receiver as soon as we make the interception because it's either him or the quarterback that can make the play. So that's one of those things where we live and learn, and we just got to say how far behind the play really is it. So that penalty right there is one that took points off the board that we can't have. But other than that, I thought we had a roughing the passer penalty, and we're going to get those every now and again. Not that they're not justified or anything, because they certainly are. But if we're going to do a good job of rushing the passer, then we got to find ways to get there.
So North Greenville jumps out to the 7-0 lead, but the Citadel Bulldogs don't wait long to get right back at it. Less than 2 minutes later, actually the drive was 5 plays and 59 yards in 1 minute and 40 seconds, and all of a sudden you've got a tie ball game because Reggie Williams takes one 17 yards. And it's kind of interesting, too, because you have such depth and you're getting contributions from a lot of different guys from the A-back spot. You're very deep at the B-back spot, too, and so you have a luxury of talent there, and they have shown at different times. You really do never really know which guy's going to step up and have a big game.
No, and I don't either, and I don't think any of them care, to be honest with you, whether it's the quarterback or whether it's the A-back or whether it's the B-back or which A-back it is. And we had Reggie at the press conference, I think it was last week, it was last Tuesday's press conference, and he said, I have just as much fun out there if I'm blocking for Cam, and he's also said that he gives Cam a lot of the credit for the touchdowns that he has, although sometimes he outruns Cam's block out there and scores touchdowns. But those guys, I think they're really playing together as a unit, as good as they can play.
So it's 7-7 after 1. You jump into the second quarter. And then another one of those A-backs jumps out, makes a big play. You had a 49-yard touchdown run by Rod Johnson. We've already given him the name Hot Rod. It's going to stick because he's a guy with tremendous speed, and he got around the end and went the distance there, 49 yards. So your first 2 offensive scoring drives happen in less than 1 minute and 40 seconds, 1:40 and then 1:37. After that, and I know that the game plan every game is to have the ball for an extended period of time and the defense not be on the field all that much, but scoring is scoring, and up at this point you're up 14-7.
Mike, I think both of those plays were set up by really good returns, a kickoff return and a punt return. So I got to give a lot of credit to the special teams. They've done a great job, and Coach Gunner's done a great job of getting us a good field position right there. So, when you get good field position like that and you be able to hit a couple big plays, I remember we were looking at a stat a couple of years ago, in our first year at the Citadel, I think we had maybe 8 to 10 explosive plays like that. Last year we got it up to about 20. And it's a lot easier, it's a lot easier to win football games when you do have some, explosive plays, and you kind of got to limit the defense's explosive plays as well. But, if we can continue to have explosive plays like that and have our guys go the distance, it certainly makes the day a lot easier for us.
Define explosive plays. Is it a certain number of yards? Is it a certain number? Is the running explosive play different than the pass? Define that.
The defense defines it a little bit differently than we do because we're such a run-oriented team that we define the thing as 15 yards or better. And then we do have another category for 20 yards or better because we do hit a couple of those as well for a run play. For a pass play, we push that thing up to about 20 yards no matter what because we should get some downfield throws at that time. I think the defense has a little bit of separate categories that they try to keep their runs underneath 10 to 12 and their passes underneath 20 or so. For their explosive plays, but it's a stat that you don't really think about too much, but it's a stat that's extremely important. It's almost as important as turnovers. If you can have more explosive plays than your opponent, I think you've got a pretty good day going. And it's not always the easiest thing to do with our offense because we do grind, but we do hope that we grind enough on you that we pop one either with the B-back or the pitch.
North Greenville would tie the ball game up on a 90-yard touchdown toss to the same guy who caught the 99-yarder, so a good day for him. It was tied at 14. But the Citadel would take the lead going into the locker room at halftime with 5:29 to go. Matter of fact, after that 90-yard run, or touchdown pass, just like the first one, you came right back and got something done, and Cam Jackson scores from 52 yards out. That followed a penalty, a 15-yard penalty, so the drive goes 67. But another one of those explosive plays, and 10 seconds later, you're right back in the lead.
It was exactly what we needed. We thought that some of the wind was taken out of your sails. You figured, we got things figured out. It's 14-7. We're going to be okay here. And then they pop another big play on you. And like, here we go. We're going to be in a dogfight again. We're looking at taking this thing all the way to the fourth quarter. And then we get another big play from Cam. And the next thing you know, we're saying, okay, we're going to be all right here. Just keep doing what we're doing. And I've got complete and total faith in the defensive staff that they're going to be able to get things fixed. And knowing full well that we hadn't practiced a whole lot, that it was just going to take a couple adjustments and we'd be fine.
North Greenville would not score again, but the Bulldogs would, and we'll tell you about that when we come back after the break in just a second here. The Citadel Bulldogs at the half have a 21-14 lead at North Greenville, and again, the Crusaders would not score again in this particular game, and the Bulldogs would come out and win the game and go to 5-0. But more about that when we come back to Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley. This is the head coach Brent Thompson radio show on Sports Radio 1450.
You've seen us compete on Barbecue Pit.
All right, welcome back to Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley. This is the head coach Brent Thompson radio show. I'm your host, Mike Legg. We're glad you're with us on this Wednesday evening, and a great crowd on hand with us here this evening, and a lot of Bulldogs in the same place at the same time, and we expect that this weekend as well when Chattanooga comes to town. Now, last year, the Citadel Bulldogs and the Chattanooga Mocs shared the Southern Conference Championship. The circumstances are different for this ball game as it's taking place a little earlier on in the season. But we'll get to that coming up in a few minutes from right now. But to close out things with regards to North Greenville, at halftime the Bulldogs had a 21-14 lead. You would go on, Coach, to win the game 38-14 by scoring 17 points unanswered in the second half to pull away. Dominique Allen, a 15-yard touchdown run. Reggie Williams, a 30-yard touchdown catch from Dominique Allen, and a 31-yard field goal from Cody Clark. And so, you come out of the halftime locker room, and in games sometimes when you are expected to win the game, that's when it happens, is depth takes over. You assert yourselves a little bit more, focus a little bit more, make some adjustments, things like that. And so that's what looked like happened to me in the second half as you pulled away and took care of business, which I know you were relieved with because, again, there were opportunities to slip because of all the things you experienced last week.
I thought it was important that we didn't overreact. We didn't overreact at halftime. We took points off the board. We know that. We don't get the interception return for a touchdown, so that's 7. We don't convert on the downs that we just talked about in the first drive, so that's 14. So we know that we're okay. We just can't overreact to the fact that they're still in this ball game. So, once we figured that out and once we got over that, we settled everybody else down. There's no need to jump on anybody because, hey, we hadn't practiced enough to really be angry about anything. All we really needed to just go out there and execute in the second half. And that was my message to the team, was just go out there and execute. We'll be fine. Because I thought if we pressed or we stressed a little bit over too much, that's what's going to allow them to take over, and it's going to allow them to remain in the football game. So, no, they did a good job of answering, and we did a good job of making just a couple of minor adjustments on offense and a couple of adjustments on defense. And the next thing you know, we get 17 more points. We're holding them, and we're doing what we're supposed to do at that point.
The stats really got gaudy by the end of the ball game. 559 rushing yards, and so for back-to-back games, you have over 500 rushing yards, which hadn't happened before in program history. So really racking them up. I mean, the basics of football: run it, stop the run. So far, after 5 games, you got a pretty good handle on that.
Yeah, that's what we talk about with our players all the time, is we've got to hang our hats on something, so we might as well be that. You got to have a program philosophy, so we might as well be that. It's like Coach Balcom has the embrace the pace. That's what he does. That's the difference there. What we do is we run the ball when we try to stop the run, and I think that's where we start, and that's where everything starts. If we make teams one-dimensional, and we know that we're going to be one-dimensional, but as long as we're successful being one-dimensional on offense, we're going to be fine. And I think our players believe in that, and that's the most important thing. Is if you ask them, what's the game plan every week? It's stop the run and run the ball.
Another thing that is really jumping out there: your time of possession in the last 2 games has been very lopsided. The opposing offense has had very little opportunity to possess the ball. When you have your style of offense, the number of possessions are kind of shrunk anyway. But this particular game, you had it for over 30 minutes again, almost 31 in this game. And so you continue to keep your defense off the field for the most part. Your offense stays on the field, and you kind of control the pace, control the field position, and there's your formula right there.
Yeah, we're all about trying to keep our defense fresh, and that starts with us on offense. And then on defense, they're all about getting the ball back for the offense. So that's how we all fit together. That's how we all play together. And then special teams is they're required to get the ball in great field position for us, and let's not make any mistakes with the ball and turn it over. So I think up until this point, we've done a good job of doing that. We've had our moments of that have looked a little bit ugly at times, but for the most part, we've done exactly what we wanted to do, and we hope to keep that up.
107 yards and a touchdown for Cam Jackson. He was the leader in that regard. Tevin Floyd had a big game with a couple of tackles for loss. So the Bulldogs win this one and go to 5-0 on the season. They win at 38-14 over North Greenville. And so now here we come back home. And, how hard sometimes is it, Coach, to keep kids focused on the game that's ahead of them, the practice that's ahead of them, when your guys know what this game is all about? They know that over the last year, 2 years, Chattanooga has come out ahead in head-to-head matchups against you guys. How hard is it to keep guys focused on the task at hand?
I thought that was going to be the most challenging thing about last week, and that was, here we are, we've got all these excuses why we may not win that game against North Greenville. We're displaced, we haven't really practiced, we're looking ahead to the Chattanooga game. And really, I think all the distraction led them to focus a little bit more on their preparation, because they knew they didn't have a whole lot of prep time for it, which was nice. Is we got the win, we got that out of our way, and then we got back to work immediately on Friday. We tried to, return to some sort of normalcy and get a workout in. We got a workout at Furman's Place. We got a lift and a run there. So we got a little bit of that out of the way. We did what we would normally do on a Saturday during a Thursday, which was the game on Thursday, which was the same thing as the Mercer week. We kind of gave them the day off. We met for a little bit, and we kind of did a little bit of a walkthrough. But other than that, we went to the movies, we hung out, we came back, played a little bit of ping pong, and next thing you know is the next day, and we're getting ready to leave. So we try to keep it as routine as possible. The only difference is we took Sunday off to travel all the way home, and normally we would practice on a Sunday, but we traveled home on Sunday, 7 hours, so we didn't want to do anything when we got off the bus, and we got after, and we had a great practice on Monday, and we got about 80 plays ahead, we thought.
Each week presents its own kind of unique challenges. This week, you've got some distractions around the game, things that happen. This is going to be Parents Weekend, where last weekend would have been. It's Hall of Fame weekend. Guys are getting their rings. And so there are a lot of little moving parts that kind of keep you in a position where you have to keep guys laser focused this week?
You know, Mike, and that was what was great about having Monday off of school where we were just able to practice. So we felt we got ahead. We had a good Tuesday practice where classes were back in session, ready to go. We had a great practice today. I thought we moved around very well today out there. So, you know, we know towards the end of the week that it's going to get a little bit of hectic. We're going to try to get our kids away from it as much as possible. So come around Friday or so, we need to kind of lock ourselves away, get back into the hotel, and start to focus ourselves, take a little bit of a break, refocus ourselves on the game plan. And you know, we know that we got ring weekend this weekend, we got parents weekend this weekend, but we also know that this is a very, very important football game. And it's Chattanooga. It's 2 top 10 teams going at it. But hey, we're at home. We're finally at home for the first time. We're in front of our fans. And as I told you before, that was the most disappointing thing for our players, was not being able to play in front of the core and their home fans and all that. That was tough to get over last week. At Sanford, you've got Wofford. You've got some really good football teams. You've got some really tough Southern Conference teams out there that are, you know, making some noise. I know Sanford lost to Chattanooga, but you know, that's a good football team. And you know, I know they've got to come to Johnson Haygood, but you know, that's a team that's very, very talented. And so we've got some good football teams down the line with us, and we can't be too worried about any of them. We got to worry about the one that's in front of us, and then we'll kind of focus on the rest of the Southern Conference schedule from there. But it's not the game that it was last year. Last year we kind of knew it was going to be essentially the conference championship game. But this year, like you said, it's not the game. But you know, it kind of sets us in a good spot. But you know, we can't worry about that. We still got some other games to win, and we've got to do our job throughout the whole season.
The game is upon us, the one that a lot of people are paying a lot of attention to. And when Coach and I come back to Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue here in just a couple of moments, we will talk a little more in depth about this weekend's opponent. The Chattanooga Mocs are in town. Both teams, the Citadel and Chattanooga, undefeated and ranked in the top 10. It's been a long time since a game like that has been played at Johnson Haygood Stadium, and this weekend is going to be it, 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. So we'll dive into the Mocs a little bit more when we come back in a couple of moments. This is the Head Coach Brent Thompson radio show on Sports Radio 1450.
Selection. Service. Quality. Value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture
I
Home
enlisted in the
Store.
Army in 2005. I went to Iraq 3 times and Afghanistan once. She's the culprit that ripped our door off. 2,000-pound animal bumping into a steel door creates quite a bit of damage. Actually use the app, take pictures of it right there for USAA, and they take care of the rest. USAA is great about working with both active and separated military. I'm Josh Eilers, and I'm a USAA member for life.
Call USAA today to talk about your insurance.
We build our communities. We earn our success. We, as South Carolinians, work best together. Don't follow your bank into the impersonal world of mergers. Make a change. Visit South Atlantic Bank to talk with local bankers who care about the Low Country. Our local headquarters will be ready next year on Johnny Dodds Boulevard. Until then, stop by our current location. You'll find a community bank with a proven track record of financial success. South Atlantic Bank. People you know and trust. Don't follow your bank into the impersonal world of mergers. Make a change. Visit South Atlantic Bank to talk with local bankers who care about the Low Country. Our local headquarters will be ready next year on Johnny Dodds Boulevard.
Different locations
Until then,
that they have. Here at this one, we are operating out of what we call the Stage in a Cage. And this is the new room built on to the West Ashley location. They have 5 flat screen TVs. Wherever you're sitting, you have a pretty good shot of the action. 40 seats, which I think are pretty much gone for this evening's show. They do rent this particular area out for private parties, but this is just one of 3 locations for Home Team Barbecue. Also have one on Sullivan's Island and also downtown as well. Glad to be here. This is the second year in a row that this is our home for our coaches show, and the first year with head coach Brent Thompson. And so here we go. We're moving into this weekend's ball game against the Chattanooga Mocs. They come in unbeaten. The Citadel Bulldogs come in unbeaten. And they have had the better of the matchups in the last 2 years, Coach. When you look back at those, you were a part of both of those. What do you see and what did you see? Why has Chattanooga in the first 2 meetings since you guys came on to the Citadel, this one being the third, what's been the key for Chattanooga to come out ahead in those games?
Well, I think the obvious one was twice, now in the last 2 years, they hit us on a big play in the first play. So that kind of sets us on our heels. So you've got a really good football team that jumps out ahead of you right away. And, here we are, we're trying to nickel and dime it all the way down the field on offense. And, we're a ball control, a field position kind of an offense. And they strike you, and they strike you early. So I think as if we can absorb that blow earlier this year, which we've talked about, and create some a little bit of field position for ourselves, I think that it'll be a different football game for us. The other major thing that I think we've done poorly at is we've been a little bit overhyped or a little bit tense. We've been a little bit rigid going into this game. Last year especially, we knew everything was on the line for that game. And I even told everybody, even after that game, I thought we put everything we had into that game, and to lose that game was very difficult for our players. And they certainly rallied after that one. But I think if we could just limit ourselves a little bit of the stress, absorb that first blow, I think we'll have a little bit of a better chance of being able to come out on top. We need to get this game more into the fourth quarter of the game. Even last year, I know we were down by 15 points or so in the fourth quarter. We come back and we score one late right there. But if we can get that, keep it a little bit closer, I feel a little bit better about our chances of winning it.
Going into this year's Western Carolina game, we talked about what losing to them in your first year at the Citadel, 2014, did. You changed the way you did some things all the way around. Did the Chattanooga game in 2014, when they jumped out to the big lead, led like 21-0 at the half and beat you by a 34-14 score, did that game send messages to you guys in any phase of the game that made you change things up a little bit? Because this is the team that's winning the league year in and year out. We've got to adjust to be in that rare space with them.
Going into last year's game and being the offense coordinator last year was a little bit different for me. But going into last year's game, I thought we needed to just kind of settle some things down, get a little bit more simplistic, go at these guys a little bit differently than we did last year, the year before. Which, I thought the year before, we didn't have a great game plan there. I tried to do a little bit too much. So I thought the simple plan was going to be better against them. And I think the same thing on defense is play your fundamentals and do them well, and I think you'll be okay. Don't outcoach yourself, and make sure that, that you got a good game plan put together before going into it. So it's changed the way that we approach these guys for sure. And it also kind of changed the way that you approach every game from here on out. It's just your kids are probably better off operating with a simple plan than they are a complex one.
I know that it wasn't your center of attention in the previous 2 meetings, and now you don't have to worry about being the head coach either. It was somebody else's gig before that in terms of defense. But I'm not necessarily disappointed that the head coach's son is no longer playing quarterback for these guys.
Very good player, very good leader, hard runner, and very fast. I think he timed at a 4.6 at the combine, so 4.5 maybe. So I thought he was a tremendous leader of that program and had been leading it for many years. And I thought that there was going to be a little bit of a drop-off at that position, and we only come to find out that they've got another great quarterback that played some running back and played some wide receiver for him, and he obviously threw the ball a couple of times for him as well. So we're still very challenged at that position, and he may throw it better than Huseman did. I think he's a little bit quicker than Huseman is. He doesn't quite have the power that Huseman had, or kind of all the savviness that Huseman had, but he's still definitely an excellent quarterback, and he's going to give us a little bit of problems, I know, throughout the day.
The new starting quarterback for Chattanooga is Alejandro Benefield, who's a left-handed quarterback now. You talked about his ability to maybe be a little bit faster. I definitely can see, if you can run over people like Huseman did a year ago, but in terms of he has made a lot of things happen with his arm this year, quite a bit more than what he does on the ground. Derek Crane's the guy that's getting a lot of the rushing yards, the guy who plays running back for these guys. But Benefield, with already over 1,500 yards throwing the football, 15 touchdowns, has done a lot of things with his arm this year.
Yeah, you put that in conjunction with Crane, and they've got an All-American on the offensive line, who I think is a terrific player. So they've got a lot of offensive weapons, and they can put you in a lot of different binds right there. They're very, very athletic, and they've got a great scheme. For all the athletic ability that they have, they've got a great scheme put together. So they know where you're a little bit weak, and they know what they got you playing, and then they try to hit you in your weak spot.
So it's Chattanooga against the Citadel Bulldogs. And I noticed, too, and when we're talking about their offense a little bit, Benefield, we talked about Derek Crane. He's the guy that is the running back for these guys. And they have 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen back. And so some very, very good offensive linemen that forged a lot of holes for these guys. That is one of the areas where you'd feel really good if you had a lot of guys returning, and they certainly do on the offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely is. When we had that 2 years ago, or last year we had that with all 5 of our guys returning, and we can do a lot more when that is the case. So I know they feel that they can do a lot more, especially when you've got an All-American, I believe he's at the right guard spot, that can certainly pick up on a lot of blitzes for sure. He knows all your line movements, knows all your stunts for the run game as well. So that it could be very challenging for us defensively to keep them guessing and keep moving into some gaps where they're not present at. So it'll be difficult. And Crane, he's just a hard runner. He'll run you over, he'll run around you. I think he'd make a great B-back in this offense.
So let's move over to the other side of the football for Chattanooga, because their defense is very stern. They have not allowed a lot of points. They've not allowed a lot of rushing yards this season. So certainly those are eye-popping things when it comes to an offense that likes to run the football an awful lot here. I'll ask you this question, though I know that you'll give them their due respect, but how much sometimes can we look at what a team does defensively and chalk it up to who they've played so far, the style of offenses that they've been up against so far this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And they've historically done well against us in the last 2 years. So that I know they're going to be able to defend us extremely well. That's tough. They play low. They play fundamental. They play great. They've got a good defensive line, and I think they got one of the best linebackers in the league as well. So I know that they're going to do a great job of defending us. But, yeah, some of that does come into play. They're not seeing maybe the downhill run game that we may give them, a little bit more of the side-to-side game. But, they certainly have to defend certainly the run and the pass against a team like Furman or some of the other teams that they've faced. So we're more of a gap scheme oriented team, so that's a little bit different for them to kind of prepare for. But I think it's going to be a very, very good football game against 2 teams that are well matched, and I believe both these teams want to run the football, and both these teams want to play physical football. So, and I know Coach Huseman's he's a defensive guy. It's kind of like going against Coach Houston. It could be very, very difficult, very challenging at times, because they stress fundamentals and they know their defense, and they execute it fairly well. You can't get them out of position too often.
This is a 6-0 football team that you'll play this weekend. They're 4-0 in league play. They started off the season with a win over Shorter. Then they took on Presbyterian. And then of the 4 league games, if you had to pick of the 6 games they've played so far and won, which one on film have you been the most impressed with?
Well, I think the Sanford win is a good win. I think being that Sanford's a very, very good football team. But the Mercer win, the way they won that game, I thought they were on a mission that day. They were on a mission last week, and some of it may have been redemption for them from the year before. But watching them play that Mercer game last week, they made very few mistakes. There's maybe one mistake that I can think they made, it was on the special teams. But other than that, they played a tremendous football game. And the scary part about it is they may be hitting on all cylinders coming into our game, which I think is what they want to do, obviously. But that to me is the most impressive, because I thought Mercer was a very good football team.
Mercer was, in fact, they had them at home. The Citadel Bulldogs got them on the road to start off the season. So we're going to continue with more about the opponent for this weekend. We're also going to get into some recruiting discussions with head coach Brent Thompson and more when we come back in a couple of moments here. We're at Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley for the Brent Thompson Radio Show on Sports Radio 1450.
Buying a home is a big financial decision, so you need a strong team working on your mortgage. That team is at South Atlantic Bank.
Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Low Country.
South Atlantic Bank offers competitive rates and terms on loans for home purchase or refinance. If you need a mortgage loan, you need the mortgage loan professionals at South Atlantic Bank. South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home ownership.
Stop by our current location. You'll find a community bank with a proven track record of financial success. South Atlantic Bank, people you know and trust. We build our communities. We earn our success. We, as South Carolinians, work best together. Don't follow your bank into the impersonal world of mergers. Make a change. Visit South Atlantic Bank to talk with local bankers who care about the Low Country. Our local headquarters will be ready next year on Johnny Dodds Boulevard. Until then, stop by our current location. You'll find a community bank with a proven track record of financial success. South Atlantic Bank.
Style. Selection. Service.
Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley. This is the Head Coach Brent Thompson radio show. Welcome back to the show and our last segment for the week here. Back again next Wednesday night from 7 to 8 to do this once again, hopefully after the Citadel Bulldogs have gone to 6-0 on the season. Here at the West Ashley location, they have a food happy hour Monday through Friday, 3 until 6. 25% off all appetizers, and 4 to 7 Monday through Friday, $1 off across the board on beer and liquors. So great opportunity for you here at this West Ashley location to come out and on Monday through Friday, get into those time windows there and get some great deals here, and the food is fantastic. And these guys are doing it right here, and we're operating out of the brand new room here, which what used to be a beauty salon. Wanted to mention, too, that to the audience, we have a sign-up sheet up here by Coach. We have a couple of giveaways that we're going to do at the end of the season. We have a ladies' watch and a men's watch. They both have the Citadel Bulldogs on the face. And we have people who have been signing up every time you come in. You can sign up every time you come to one of the shows. We'll draw at the last one. You don't have to be present to win, but you do have to be present to sign up. And the watches are courtesy of Garfield Jewelers. So after the show, perhaps if you want to come up and be sure your name is on the list, we are going to be able to do that for you. Big game this weekend with the Chattanooga Mocs coming to town to take on the Citadel Bulldogs. We talked an awful lot about these guys. Wanted to veer a little bit away from some of these things because, and I'm always fascinated, Coach, about the way coaches and programs kind of budget their time. Because not only do you have to spend a lot of time preparing for an upcoming opponent, getting your kids ready, something's going to pop up on film that makes you want to work on something else, but you still have to recruit future Bulldogs. And so let's talk about your recruiting efforts and the things that you're able to do and where that process is right now.
Yeah, Mike, well, we do a lot of recruiting during the season. In fact, the staff right now, as they are back in the office, making some recruiting phone calls. I actually just made a couple of calls on my way over here, which I try to do every week. I'll make a couple on the way over, a couple on the way back, and then I'll make a couple when I'm back in the office, and then I usually make 1 or 2 on my walk home. So I think it's important for us to keep staying in contact with the players that we've identified over the summertime. We also have a letter writing program that we put together. Our recruiting coordinator, Scott Yielding, does a good job with. He kind of rotates the staff around. We take our top 50, 60 prospects or so, and we write them handwritten letters at least once a week or once every other week, and we try to get as many different contacts as possible. And knowing now that what you know about Facebook and you know about Twitter, is that's another way to stay in contact with them, and they've kind of loosened the rules a little bit in the NCAA with Twitter. So there's another way to make contact with them. So we've got to constantly stay on our game as far as recruiting goes. We watch film on Thursdays. Thursday afternoon's a little bit lighter for us, and kind of right at the time that you and I meet is we watch some film in there. We kind of discuss some recruits. We discuss who's coming to visit us for games as well. So it's a good opportunity for us to be able to stay ahead of recruiting as best we can during the season. So that way, when the season is over, we're able to go out there and identify and try to get get in contact, get in the homes, talk to mom and dad, tell them all about the Citadel.
Now, something else that we don't talk about enough on this show, something else that you have to work in there in conjunction with practices and classes and things of that nature. And I say it largely tonight because you have a lot of your strength coaches who are in the building here this evening to watch the show. Appreciate the support from those guys. But talk about the in-season stuff in addition to your off-season conditioning programs and the things that you prescribe for each of your guys, because every guy's a different case.
You know, Mike, I thought it was the most important thing that I did when I became the head coach was to make sure that Donnell was going to be with us. Coach Boucher's done a wonderful job with our players. I continue to see it year in and year out. I continue to see our players that we make it a point. It's a kind of a point of emphasis. It's a sense of pride that we can get our guys to the fourth quarter. So I know that we're not only in great shape, but we're also maintaining our strength throughout the season. The other things that he does that you wouldn't even think about, he monitors the mess hall, he monitors their calorie intake, he monitors the protein program that we've got, the protein bars that we're able to provide. So he does a lot of the things that you wouldn't even think about as far as maintaining body weights and maintaining conditioning, as well as what we do in season. We lift, we've got a travel and a non-travel group. We get those guys lifted pretty good on Sunday after a game, and he thinks that's important to be able to kind of run out the game and put that behind us. And then we get two more lifts in we get one more lift in with two different groups throughout the week. And then our non-travel kind of guys that were redshirting, we try to get two more lifts with those guys. So we start to prepare those guys for spring ball for next year, start to take their bodies in the direction that we want them to go in. So we sit down as a staff and we decide, we want to make sure that this guy can maintain this sort of weight. What's going to be the best weight for that position? And we kind of gear our program towards that, and I think that's what he does best. And then the summer conditioning program, I think, pays dividends this time of year and moving forward later in the year to when our guys are still in good shape. They are, we're not getting overuse injuries. He kind of knows when to back down. He knows when to condition them. So I kind of leave a lot of that on his plate, just as I do with the offense. It's just as I do with the defense, especially in the special teams. Is I kind of let those guys do what's best for them. They run it by me, and the strength conditioning is no different. I kind of make my suggestions here and there, but when you spend as much time as the offense coordinator as I did, I really worked best when people kind of left me alone and decided, this is what I thought was best for the offense, and just kind of relayed it by the head coach. So I think those are important, and that's where Donnell fits in. Is I've got complete trust and complete faith in he and his staff, and they do a wonderful job.
We talked a little bit about recruiting. We talked about the strength and conditioning, but I wanted to back up just a little bit because in the last two games particularly, I have marveled at the number of times I have talked about a sophomore making a major contribution on the football team, which tells me that last year's recruiting class, or it would have been their first year into the program last year, those guys who you weren't able to redshirt because they were going to contribute are really growing up now. I think you may have 5, maybe 6, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 or 6 guys who are sophomores who are making pretty significant contributions to what you're trying to do on the football team.
Yeah, well, our emphasis 2 years ago in recruiting was on defense. So I think you'll see a lot of those guys showing up on defense, especially the defensive line. We were decimated by graduation a couple of years ago on the defensive line. A lot of those guys are contributing now on the defensive line. On the offensive side, you'll see guys like Rod. Rod's doing a great job for us. So I think that was a good recruiting class. I thought it was our best recruiting class up until this year. And in this year's recruiting class, we haven't had to rely a whole lot on. So we're doing a good job of redshirting a lot of those guys. So hopefully we can start talking about those guys next year as redshirt freshmen, essentially. And those guys will start to contribute for us next year and gradually ease those guys in. When we first got here, we played almost a completely new offensive line that year. And we were all kind of out of whack on offense and defense with our graduation year. So we're getting that kind of stabilized, and that really, it has to do with recruiting, but it has to do with more recruiting the right person for the Citadel. And as I say everywhere I go, and I speak to all the alumni groups, is retention is the way that you win football games at the Citadel. Is we have good football players. We can make them into good football players with Donnell's program, but really when it comes down to it is we need older players.
Coach, you are 6 games after this week, 6 games into your first season as a head coach. I'm sure that there are things you were very prepared for when you got the job, and there probably have been some things as the season has wore along that you've had to handle that you weren't necessarily prepared for in being a head coach. Can you give me an example maybe of each one of those things you were very aware of and you're very comfortable with, but some things that maybe caught you off guard that you've had to adjust to?
I think anytime that you can plan, in the summertime, I took the whole summertime and I planned camp. We planned our 365 calendar with Coach Boucher and all the rest of the staff. We planned our summer camp, which it takes a lot of organization. So I felt very comfortable doing that. That I'd been at the Citadel before, kind of know how things go. I know the ins and the outs of the place just enough to be able to get through that. Now, the Thursday schedule was a little bit tough opening up on that Mercer. I had to call some people on that one. And then even last week was a difficult one. I called Coach Houston up and I said, look, first of all, you didn't prepare me for this one. I said, second of all, is why didn't this happen on your watch and why does this happen on my watch?
Yeah.
But he was laughing. He said, you're going to be fine, because I did ask him if we were doing the right thing. I said, Mike, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have continued to move the game and play the game? He said, without a doubt. So once I spoke to him about that, I felt a lot more comfortable. But there have been situations where, I've had to rely on other people and call other people. And I even, I've reached out to people that I would never think about reaching out to. And I just said, what would you do here? Being that I know you've been in similar circumstances, but everybody that I've talked to has been great. Everybody that I've talked to have helped me out, and they've done a great job, including my staff, is try to kick around as many different ideas with the staff, and I have to ultimately decide what's best for us and what's best for all three phases in the football program and the Citadel all at one time, and that can weigh on your mind, and sometimes it doesn't allow you to sleep very well at night. And I told Coach Harrell, I said, going in, making that decision last week to play was a little bit difficult, and I wasn't completely sold on it until the next morning. I went for a run with Coach Harrell the next morning, and I said, you know what, I slept great last night. And I said, I think that was a sign. That was a sign that I made the right decision here, and we're good to go. We're going to move forward with this. And once we get on the bus and once we get all logistics figured out, it's going to be the best thing for us. And I'm holding true to that. Is if I can sleep well at night, knowing the decisions that I make, I think I'll be okay.
I hope that you sleep like a baby Saturday night into Sunday morning.
No doubt, because there have been days where I've made some bad play calls that I didn't sleep, and I kicked myself in the butt saying, you know what, I should have never called that. That was stupid or something like that. But, for the most part, I've been pretty good on myself lately.
Last minute or so of the show coming up here, Coach. Give me quickly a couple of things you think are going to be keys for Saturday's game to get a win over Chattanooga.
Undoubtedly, it's going to be that getting over the first quarter. I think is that if we can hang in there for the first couple of quarters, it's a very talented football team. They don't give up many points. They don't give up many points in the first half, and they certainly score a lot of points. So I think if we can hang in there and stretch this game out, I think it's going to go a long ways with our players.
Coach, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time, and look forward to the rest of the week. It might take a while to get here, but it's a huge weekend, so good luck with the rest of the preparation.
Thanks, Mike. Catch up with you tomorrow.
All right, you got it. That is head coach Brent Thompson. I'm Mike Legg. Thanks so much to everybody who came out. Great crowd tonight joining us for another edition of the Head Coach Brent Thompson Show. We'll talk to you again next week in this time slot, but also big game Saturday. We're on the air at 1 o'clock for the 3 o'clock kickoff against the Chattanooga Mocs. Until then, we'll talk to you soon, and go Bulldogs.